Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we are going to be covering the teardown of the rear subframe, as well as looking at some damage I need to fix on that rear subframe. We're also going to be taking a road trip down to P&L Minis in North Wales, which I'm not going to lie, it took a little bit more time than I realised it would, but we have got a parts haul that I'll also be going through at the end of this video and what we're going to be using to fix the back of this Mini. If that sounds like your kind of vibe, feel free to follow along, but for now, let's just jump back into the Mini build. Before we get into cleaning and prepping the subframe, it's crucial to give it a thorough inspection for any damage or weak spots that might cause issues or trouble down the road. One easy trick is to grab a flathead screwdriver or a small hammer and tap along the surface, listening for any dull thuds or weak spots that might indicate rust underneath the metal. Pay special attention to the mounting points, especially where the subframe connects to the body. This area takes a lot of stress and any corrosion here could be a real issue later. Also, don't forget to check the seams for any splitting or cracks. If you see or feel anything suspect, it's better to get it addressed now rather than finding out the hard way when it's already mounted back on the car. Now, it would be really tempting to just leave the subframe as it is because it's good enough, but I think with how much work we've been doing on the back of the Mini, it's only right that we do this properly. And if we're going to get it epoxy primed with good marine grade coverage, then I need to make sure that this is worth doing. So strip it down and have a good look over it. Make sure that there's no really bad rust and we don't have to patch it. And then hopefully we'll have a really good part afterwards. As always, keep track of all your bolts and parts. For me, black plastic stackable containers work really well, keeping everything organized and easy to find when it comes time to reassemble. Okay, so I've removed the rear trailing arms with the drum brakes still attached, as I'll be tackling this part of the job later down the line. For now, I'm moving on to taking off the brake lines and the exhaust hangers, making sure to check all the bushings along the way. You may have also noticed a little name change on the channel, so let me know what you think, and if you're finding this useful, feel free to follow. So that's both the trunnions out on the back of the subframe, and they were a bit of a nightmare. The one on the passenger side needed heat put through it, and the driver's side, well, the nuts, they've corroded, which has meant when I've taken them off, it's kind of stripped the thread. So we're gonna need new, I guess these are called trunnion bolts. So that's another thing I've got to stick on my list. Now that the subframe is completely stripped, I think the plan is to put some of the bolts back into it so that when I get it sandblasted, those are protected. As well as that, we've got these two threads that are going to need looking after as well. So I'll get those wrapped up for when it gets sandblasted so they don't get damaged. And then it's time to start thinking about how we're going to go and pick up all the panels I need, because the shipment to Dunoon came in at around about £400 to £700, which is absolutely mental. So instead, we're going to be taking a bit of a road trip to P&L Minis, who have been absolutely amazing. I've been calling Liz for the last week and a half, changing my order, not knowing what I wanted, whether I wanted half heel boards, full heel boards, heritage parts, aftermarket parts. Decisive as always, Josh. Right, it's time to jump in the transporter and head down to North Wales. That is the dogs in the back. That is all the camera gear I need to make sure we get everything covered, and boom, we're on the road. Having to run two businesses, both Wandering Icons and Victoria House Dunoon, meant that I didn't have a lot of time to go and get these parts. So we set off on a Friday night, with our first stop being Blackpool. Only 406 miles to go. Well, we made it to Blackpool. It's been about 4.5 hours. Wheels over there. Tower is over there as well. Doggies are in good nick. I think the plan is get my stuff thrown in one bag, get to the hotel, which looks like it's only a 5-minute walk away, get my head down because it's about 10:30 at the moment, and then tomorrow morning, hopefully, we'll be able to get into North Wales. Night, guys. I've started this project and I'm absolutely loving it, but the truth is it's costing a ridiculous amount of money to get this car sorted. If I wasn't doing all the work myself, I'd be in it for probably thousands of pounds already. And don't get me wrong, I'm really, really enjoying it. Knowing how to carry on and get this done on a budget, which I think is something that we're all trying to figure out at the moment, given the climate, it is definitely something I'm struggling with, and figuring out angles to make things cheaper is what I'm needing to do. And you have to be a bit of a Del Boy to sometimes make your projects become a reality and not something that just sits around for months, weeks, years. I guess I've been really, really lucky, and the cool thing about doing this YouTube channel is the comments I get and the support I get. I've even had some of you call me and give me advice on the phone. As a complete beginner, for me, finding people that know what they're talking about is so important on this restoration. I call garages and specialist shops pretty much every day, asking for advice, and 99.9% of the time they're willing to give it. If you're thinking about starting your own restoration project, make sure you join up to local clubs and Facebook pages. For now, let's get back to the build. Right, now that we've got the rear subframe stripped, there's a few things we need to do before we can send it off for sandblasting and protection. The first thing I need to do is get some duct tape wrapped around these exposed threads here, because they could get damaged in the process. The other thing that I've done, old bolts back in the threaded holes, and again, exactly for the same reason, we're trying to protect those. Lastly, I did sustain a bit of damage in a little crash I had. Feel free to go and find that video. And there's a bit of bending here on the rear C-bar, so we're going to spend some time with a hammer and dolly set and get that fixed. For those of you screaming at your TVs that this is beyond repairable, I just wanted to show you exactly what I'm going to be doing to fix it. So there is the tiniest of kinks just here, nothing crazy at all, but the inside of the bar, let me just turn that round, just here is bent. So this is what we're kind of going to be focusing on at the moment, just to get that nice and straight. Let me show you a couple of things I've been using to fix this rear subframe. And remember, if you've got a damaged part and you're thinking about throwing it away, it is the absolute perfect opportunity to have a go at doing some of the things that I'm doing here. So we started with hammer and dolly set, and this is a super cheap set from Amazon, and it does the job a lot of the time. However, today I've had to go a little bit more hardcore, and a couple of things that I'm using, and wait for it, someone's going to be upset. I've used a standard claw hammer, one, because it's got a little bit more weight behind it, and two, I'm not doing delicate work. The other thing that I've been using to fix this C-section is just a bit of bar like this, and if I show you, getting that in there and working around it means that I'm able to get much straighter edges. And the longer your bit of straight bar is, it means you can kind of continue that straight edge. Other tools that I've got here are these metal crimps that I totally forgot I'd even bought. I've barely used them at all, and that's been really good for getting on some of these little edges, like just here, and just kind of wiggling them and shaping them. Again, I'm not looking for perfect, but I just wanted to get this to a better shape. Now, I'm fairly sure that this subframe is going to get glass blasted and come back looking pretty spectacular. We'll be showing you this next week, so feel free to follow along. For now, let's get to P&L Minis. Right, we are very, very close. I just met Liz's sister that owns the caravan, and oh, it's such a nice caravan park as well. Yeah, if you're wanting to come and camp in Wales and meet someone that's very enthusiastic about minis, what a place to come. Right, where is this entrance? So here we are finally at P&L Minis in North Wales, a small family-run business that's become one of the go-to places for mini parts. Walking around, you can see the sheer range of classic mini parts they stock. Everything from body panels to mechanical components, all neatly organised on these shelves. I've been hassling Liz over the last few weeks and the communication has been absolutely spot on. She's been incredibly helpful in sourcing parts and giving advice on what to do and what not to do with the rebuild. For me, it's that personal touch that makes P&L Minis stand out. Supporting businesses like this is not just about the parts, but also about the people who are passionate about keeping these iconic cars on the road. If you've got a mini project of your own or you're considering getting one, I'd definitely have a look at their website and give them a call. Oh, what a day! I have just left P&L Minis, and apologies if you thought you might see more of it than I've filmed, but I didn't realise P&L have just moved from Yorkshire to Wales only 7 weeks ago, so things are pretty hectic there. But I got to sit down with Liz, we had a really nice chat, and it was super interesting to chat to another small business and see what ideas they're coming up with. I always feel so invigorated when I've met someone like that who's just kind of out there doing their own thing. And not only that, I've got all the parts I need, plus a load of parts I also needed but didn't think I'd be getting, plus a load of parts I definitely wasn't planning on getting, which I'm going to be showing you right now. And there is no better day than a parts day. So without further ado, what have we got? Let's start with the biggest part, which is the boot floor. We've all been there, haven't we? We've bought new panels and we just can't wait to see if they fit. So I went ahead and cut out the rest of the support on the rear old boot floor, and I've just dry fitted the new one in there. And I'm pretty happy with the way it's looking. I can't wait to get this fitted in the car properly next week and start welding. Now, moving forwards, my biggest worry is removing too much structure out of the back of this car and inevitably weakening it. So before I remove the heel board, I will be welding in the boot floor. I've called around and this seems like the best way forward. If you've got different ideas, please let me know. But for now, let's have a look at what I decided to do with that heel board. I will confess, when it comes to the heel board, I have not known what to do. Should I go heritage? Should I go aftermarket? Should I go half? Should I go full? I've gone for the full panel, but I still don't know whether I'm going to weld in the full panel or I'll chop off the ends and use them with the good metal that's already in the middle, because this part of my current heel board is good. So let me know what I should do. The other thing with heritage panels is you can really feel the weight in them. They're much better quality. You'd have to be a bit of an idiot to use aftermarket panels. Well, meet the idiot. I know some of you will be very angry typing in the comment section at the moment, because this is something that's known as an overseal. And back in the day, garages would have welded this over bad seals and rust, which creates more problems. I'm still not 100% whether I'm going to use this or not, but I wanted to get a balance between the heritage parts and also be able to share with you a little bit more information on what to expect with aftermarket seals. We're going to be looking at ways that we could use this and perhaps save some of those rust issues. But if you've had any success with these aftermarket seals, let me know in the comments. Another part of the car that I've bought as aftermarket is the rear valance. And one of the reasons is, well, we haven't all got cash to spend on heritage parts all the time. So we'll be getting this fitted, but as well as that, I'll be covering some of the things that distinguish this from a heritage panel. Things like the gauge of the steel and the finish and fit of the part. that is it for another week on the Classic Mini restoration. However, I'm going to be dropping a second video on Tuesday about a little mini spring that could be the perfect Christmas present if you've got someone that has a Classic Mini. For now, I'm going to say goodbye because I need a bit of a rest, and I will catch you next time.